Welcome, viewers. On behalf of Iravati Research and Communication Center, this is your host, Pratim Ranjan Bose. I have with me Mr. Sajjan Kumar, a bright young political scientist whom you might have seen in national TV. Sajjan is a published author. For more than a decade, he has been conducting field study across the India. He writes regularly on themes of contemporary Indian politics in the national dailies. He is associated with People's Pulse of Hyderabad and Delhi-based PRACCIS. He privileges the social factor in his analysis and uses insights from political psychology along with rational choice theory to understand the shifts in the modes of identity politics and their shifting interplay with the contemporary Indian right. Now, that is about his his expertise and specialization. But he's over here more as a political scientist, someone who knows, who can feel the political pulses better than us or most of us. As you know, IRCC is for economy and of the economy. We don't entertain pure political debates and higglings and all those things. But discussions on the economy is incomplete without the political economics. Or rather, it's political economics that drives the real economy. It is in this context we will discuss issues pertaining to political stability, that is an essential factor behind the policy stability, new trends and concerns, the sudden rise in politics of freebies or reverie politics, and if there is a way to escape from that reverie politics. Sajjan, the first question: how do you see the political landscape in India is changing from that unfortunate recall of the Agricultural Reforms Bill in 2021? Not bill, really, they were put into act. I referred it as unfortunate because all data show, so far as we could come across, is that the protests were pertaining to only a small fraction of India's farmers who proved politically more significant. Over to you, Sajjan.
Let me just see the topography and demography of the agitationists on against the agricultural reform. It came from Punjab, Haryana, and one part of Western UP. If you see Western UP, it is divided into, one is the Braj region, which is the potato growing region. So if you start from Delhi and go towards Noida, then go to Bulandshahr, then Aligarh, Hathras, Agra, Mathura, Agra, and then you go to Etah, Mainpur, Etawah. That is also the Western UP, but you will see that farmer protests were not. The farmers, the potato growing farmers were not protesting. But the moment from Delhi, you move towards Meerut, Muzaffarnagar, Shamli, Saharanpur, etc., primarily the sugarcane growing belt, therein you see the protest. So first, it was not entire Western UP, it was just one fraction of Western UP, the sugarcane belt. And then, of course, Haryana and Punjab. But then also, I just want to see the limitation of the protest, contrary to the hyper media coverage as if entire region is there. Within Punjab, it was primarily the Sikh farmers, you do not see the non-Sikhs participating, though they're constituting around more than 40% of the state population. In Haryana, you will find that non-Jats were completely absent, while many of them are peasant castes also, but they did not participate.
And Jats are probably 1/5 of the population or something like that in Haryana.
Less than that, slightly less than that. But even if we give, because they themselves claim to be around 20%, so if we give that, and the same was true about the Western, the fraction of the Western UP. It was so non-Jats were completely absent from the farming protest of Haryana as well as the Western UP, and the non-Sikhs were completely absent. So if you see, not only there was a severe limitation about the farmers' protest in terms of the geography, but also in terms of the demography of the farming community, you find it was just not even a footnote to the text of agrarian community. It was just something which you find in index of the book, not even worthy of being a footnote. But yet, they came from a very organized, political backing. From, the trade unions across India, they all ensured that they assemble in Delhi. Then it has the international financial support, the way 1.5 years they were capable of not only blocking the highway, but also they sustained the protest. The funding part is completely missing. There is no transparency about, because very soon it camouflaged and transcended into a political protest, wherein the government initially was willing to negotiate with them. Government continuously, every week you see the ministers and from the top of the government, the offers were coming that they are willing to debate the act clause by clause, and they are willing to modify, rectify, bring changes. But they made it non-negotiable by saying that they want a rejection in toto. That entire bill has to be rejected. So this is one. First, the farmers were not representative of the farming community of India in terms of territory, in terms of the caste and community. This is one. Now, let us see why the farmers' protest was not seen, say, in also agriculture-centric states like central and eastern UP, Bihar, Bengal, Jharkhand, entire Northeast, entire South India, and overwhelmingly Vidarbha region, Konkan region, and Gujarat, etc. Why you find that one of the effort of the protesters was to have some token representation. So one farmer leader would be from Bengal, one would be from the Kerala, but farmers were missing. So this is one question, that why we did not see the kind of farming protests happening across India. So one reason accounting for is that I myself hail from a village, from a agrarian based family. Today you do not find a full-time farmer. What today you see are primarily the part-time farmers, farmers who are partially into agrarian economy, and part-time they are either doing some job, doing some business, or doing some other economic activity in service sector. This is one. So therefore, already at the family level, at the individual household level, agriculture already have been deeply integrated with the capital which is coming from non-agrarian sectors. You are a service person, you are doing a job. So part of the investment you are, part of the salary you are investing. You are a businessman, you are investing there. You are a service person, you are taking here. And then again, the profit coming from agriculture, either you are using it for some other business or you are using part-time to sustain your own everyday expenditure. So to say that linking market with agriculture, which was the prime intent of the bill and the act, per se is problematic, doesn't take into account the household level reality of farmers across India. And therefore the claim that farmers all of a sudden will lose their autonomy and there won't be any kind of space to the farmers to grow agriculture as per their interest. Market will kind of behave as an extortionist method, and farmers would be just servitude. This is like for a national channel that taking loan until from capitalist A was fine, but the moment it goes under capitalist B, it becomes problematic. So this is more like ideological posturing, Yeah. So, if we are concerned about farmers, then we have to talk about the farmers in India. And farmers in India do not come just from 2.25 regions in terms of states and just one community overwhelmingly participating in it. This is one. Second, I want also to bring besides what is the political economy of democracy. Now, since primarily we need to understand the phenomenon which was about the economic reform, agrarian reform linking to that, because we are finding that agriculture is no more sustainable on its own. You need capital from outside the sector, and therefore there is an urgent need to connect it to the market. Certainly the practitioners need to be the stakeholder of the reform, which was a measure, of course, to give the farmers larger choice to decide where to sell, where not to sell, to decide rather than being forced to sell to a mandi, wherein if you are organized and if you are a better of farmers, you can extract the price, you can force the state government. But what about the majority of the farmers who are not better of farmers? They need certain venues wherein they can negotiate, they can experiment, they can go for the kind of agricultural commodity wherein more demands are there, so that with the limited land holding, they can grow an output which has a better market, reception, and therefore they can have a bit more kind of freedom to augment their income, which was the intent. Now, suddenly, a powerful farming lobby from certain states, backed by the unionist mindset, they used as a pretext. Now, in that background, if we see the clearly the demographic reality, how the sociology and economy, we all have two modes of identity, right? One is our sociological identity, cultural identity, with which we are born, with our caste, community, etc. And other is our occupational identity, which is coming from the profession we are into it. Now you find we should be careful while analyzing. Many a times when we try to privilege occupational identity, which is the main, social category of the approach of political economy, we always see it's the farmers, it is the occupational identity. But we have to be careful, because in India, there are certain communities, their caste, who pursue their caste politics or identity politics in the garb of occupational identity.
True. We know about the Jat non-Jat issue in Haryana.
And also
politics.
the Sardar.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden, primarily, it's your identity. It's your social, cultural, caste-centric identity. But the posturing is always, a Jat identity is never played as a Yadav identity in UP. Jats suddenly transcend their caste identity into occupational identity. The Sikhs in Punjab also have this leverage. We know the kind of lynching that happened. Lynching becomes a news only when the identity of the victim is from, a certain community or certain section, or the perpetrators has to be certain class. So we have to be careful in political economy approach when we are talking about the occupational identity. Is it the bona fide occupational identity? Or is it the vested caste and community centric identity politics backed by a vested sectarian political interest, which is projecting itself as a farmer in terms of their occupational identity, but behind it, a certain different kind of politics of grammar is operating. Now, this was the intent which government initially failed to recognize and highlight. And this is the failure of the government machinery, wherein they should have seen that the farmers' protest, even if they would have been bona fide.
I think even if they knew, they failed to complete the narrative. Counter the narrative.
They failed to complete. So this was one. In terms of the narrative war, you see the current regime has the societal dominance, but in terms of institutional, leverage, they are still way behind, in the battle of narratives, because the factories of narrative constitution, which is the Ivy League institution in media, academia, in research institution, still is something which is dominated by the forces who have lost the political plot in terms of electoral battle, but still have the hegemony as far as constituting the narrative is concerned.
So with that background, and it was a major win for them, or at least they would have loved to show it in that way. Though subsequent economic turn of events, India's rise, that no one really expected or projected of that camp. So all these things have put those issues in the back burner, and yet, did it impact Indian politics? That particular event, did it impact Indian politics? That the impact that will unfold to us in the days to come.
It did. See, some of the, I see two tectonic policy failures under this regime, wherein they started a policy reform with much enthusiasm and determinism. And then after seeing the protest not coming from the societal realm, but primarily from a very minuscule but very organized, very vocal, unionist political forces. One was 2014, if you remember, immediately after coming to power, the government tried to bring the land acquisition bill, certain
Exactly.
reform within
I
that.
do agree with you.
Now, if you see, if you go to a village, people who are trying to champion the votary of rural India, first, they do not live in rural India, Second, have you ever tried to do a survey? What majority of the rural people want? Everywhere, I mean, we go during the time of election, except Tamil Nadu, Kerala, I have covered all the states in India, including North. The first thing everywhere you go, they will complain that there are no industry. Even if the geography doesn't support industry, like in Upper Himachal, you cannot have industry. But yet, this is a commonsensical aspiration. People say, if we do not have employment, modes of a kind of thing, because there are no revenues,
See,
people have
Sajjan,
to
the
migrate,
biggest
etc.
change that we are, that has happened on the ground is that the farmer's son doesn't want to be known as a farmer. Well, he sports that farmer hat sometimes to brag to his friends. That's a different issue. So my friend is a very, prominent professional in Delhi. He sometimes referred to himself as a farmer because he owns some land in Rajasthan and he flies down there and looks after sometimes, and that's it. But
a very romanticized, kind of projection of
romanticized, the earnings from that farm actually feed the people over there. So it's kind of a different purpose. But well,
so coming to the question, I mean, what impact did it have on Indian politics? So one was that. So if you go into India, majority of the villagers, rural stakeholders, they want industry, and therefore acquisition of land is not a problem if you give them a fair compensation and a fair price, along with some link economy which they expect will help them in having additional modes of income. This is one. Number two, this farmers' protest. Who were the loser? Absolutely. Was it BJP? No. It is basically the majority of the farmers across India who have been taken hostage by a minuscule section of the organized, better off farmers with political backing, who are appropriating entire farmers and defining them from their own vantage point.
Absolutely.
So in terms of representing the economic interest of the middle and marginal farmers, which was the intent of the government, BJP failed to protect their interest, primarily because it bowed down to the organized pressure, which came from, the dominant communities who were trying to act in an extortionist way by hiding behind a fake occupational identity. Mind it, in India, the category of farmer is a normative category. The moment you put that level, it becomes very difficult to debate an issue rationally. Because lots many emotive, lots many baggages, Bharat Kisano ka desh hai, the farmers, the Annadata. True. That is true. But then you have to see the intent behind those, narrative and the projection. But Annadatas are also the marginal and the middle class farmers. Sorry, middle level farmers. And they were so in that term, if you see
the West Bengal left took a lot of credit for the land reforms and empowering small farmers, right? In all narrative, we will see about small farmers. What is the reality, ground reality? You know it very well. Small farmers lease out the farming to the big ones.
Big farmers.
A friend of mine, he is currently farming in some 54 bighas or acres. He is not allowed to hold that much of land. Neither is he holding. He has taken the season or 5 years farming rights on lease because that small farm is no more remunerative, and that the farmer's son doesn't want to do that again.
That's true. So we have to understand. So in terms of the impact it brought on politics, one, India now is caught into a economic trap wherein these marginal farmers are going to be dependent upon the state support or state welfare schemes for times to come, for a long haul. This is one. Now, this is difficult at a time when the
So
inflation
you
is
were
a global
saying
issue.
that it has, in a way, it has, it kept the subsidy economy alive.
Alive, because I mean the marginal farmers who would have got certain more
And second
revenue
is, you are
to
saying that
augment.
the mid-level farmers who are really
Yeah,
annadatas and etc. Yes, their
yeah,
productivity is higher.
yeah,
So
yeah,
their aspirations are not served. And you are
yeah.
saying that the small farmers, their
Yes,
aspirations are not served either.
exactly, and they are going to be at the level of the, I mean, subsistence
And
level,
in
wherein
terms
the
of the
state support.
government, if I look at it from the government perspective, since they have come out with such a hype, and since it took long time, and they actually passed the act. So
Yeah,
it was not a bill, it was an act
yeah,
which
it
they
was an
had to
act. Yeah,
undo. So
yeah,
all
yeah.
these things should have impacted moral of both the supporters,
Yes,
and in a reverse way of the detractors.
detractors. Yes. And that is why you see, just to interject in between, when the bills were taken back, you find a volley of anger coming from across India, from the core support base of the BJP, including the rural farmers, because they never expected that the government will suddenly come out with such a very shocking decision to take back an act which was already. Government may have certain, they may have realized that it is leading to certain security consideration, radicalizing a
Yes,
border state, and therefore
yes,
the regions were something different. But certainly, besides that, another impact is also which you see. It also created a kind of incentive to the organized, protesters. Unfortunately, civil society in India is no more civil. If you take the way, civil society's primarily job is what? Your job is to act as a mediator between the state and the society by raising certain issues. These are which are important, but political, I mean, class may not be taking due cognizance of it. So ultimately, what should be the intent of civil society? It should be to harmonize the fault lines, right? I mean, be it economic fault line, be it social fault line. But unfortunately, since 80s and 1990s and of late in the last 7, 8 years, we have seen the civil society is basically a profession to agitate. You know, agitate to what end is not clear. You want to agitate. You want to protest. You want to kind of constantly pit one section against the other and primarily against the state. So ultimately, what is happening? Your interest is not to harmonize the fault line, which is the reality of every society. We have fault lines, we have hierarchies. But when you see your entire civil society is determined to deepen the fault line, if that becomes the end in itself, then it becomes
yes. I mean,
very threatening for democracy.
I sometimes find it pretty sickening to see
Yeah,
that, Dalit, who says more about Dalit vote, by the way? It is not, probably Dalits or
yeah,
the righties. It is more the so-called liberal forces who talk more about
yeah,
Dalit votes. And then they
yeah,
are
yeah,
very alarmed when it is going out of a particular pocket to somewhere else. I mean, why? I mean,
yeah.
people should vote whichever party they want.